Hello and welcome to Byte Basics. I'm Earl Yeager. Today on Byte Basics we're looking at sorting and filtering our data in Excel. So often in the district we're given these very large data tables. We have huge amounts of data on an Excel spreadsheet. And sometimes we want to kind of zero in on specific pieces of information, things we really want to know. And so it'd be really useful to know how to kind of narrow down all of that information to just those pieces we're most interested in. So I'm going to show you several different techniques that relate to sorting and filtering and different view manipulations on your Excel spreadsheets to help you really make sure you're getting exactly the information you want on your sheet. So if you look over here with me on my computer, I've got a data table. So this is an example of a LEP roster. I've taken out all of the names of students and teachers so we don't have to worry about that, and none of the student ID numbers are real numbers, so we're all good as far as that goes. But if we want to look at specific pieces of information on this data table, you'll notice that this table is bigger than I can see all in one go. I can scroll up and down on here and kind of look at this, but it's kind of hard. And if I reduce the zoom until I can start seeing everything, well, now I can't actually read anything on this. So we need to have other techniques to work with this and narrow things down. So the first thing I'm going to point out is as I scroll down, I no longer can see what column is what. So if I didn't catch it when I started, I don't necessarily know what this teacher 11 relates to. What column is this? Why is there a teacher 11 there? What is that all about? So it's useful to be able to make sure that your column headers follow you as you go across the document. Likewise, I know that this is student 2 right now, but as I scroll over this way and I scroll up and down, can I still remember which one is student 2? Or more readily, if I'm on student 20 or student 25, can I make sure I'm on the correct student? So keeping those column headers and keeping your left-hand margin information together is sometimes very important. So what we'll want to do is kind of make sure that these pieces of information stay visible at all times. And Excel has a nice little feature called Freeze Panes. And what Freeze Panes allows us to do is exactly that. Keep certain pieces of information viewable as we go scrolling around on our document. So if I wanted to make sure that I can see these column headers and this left-hand information, I'm going to go to View and I'm going to use an option called Freeze Panes. Now Freeze Panes has a few different options underneath it. When I click on it, I see Freeze Panes, Freeze Top Row, Freeze First Column. Now if I only had stuff typed in the very top row, row 1, I could use Freeze Top Row and I would keep those visible all the time. If I had stuff frozen in the very first column, column A, and I just wanted to keep that viewable, I could use this and it would be viewable all the time. However, with my data table and with most of the data tables we see in the district, it's not just the first row or the first column. So in that case, I'm going to use the Freeze Pane options. But in order to make sure I get the right thing frozen, I have to first make sure to put my cursor in the correct place. So I want to keep everything up here in this gray area visible. So I know I want to start having it scroll here on row 8. Row 7 and up I want to keep. So I'm going to make sure to put my cursor on row 8 because row 8 is where I'm going to have things start moving. Now on my columns, I want to keep through column D. I want to see the student ID number and student name no matter where I am on the document. So I need to make sure that I'm in column E. That's where I want things to start changing. So column E, row 8, is where I want things to start changing. Row 7 and columns D and back, row 7 and up, columns D and back, are the things I want to stay no matter what. So this is the column I'm going to be in, the column and row. This particular cell is the one I'm going to be in when I choose my Freeze Panes option. Now once I have my Freeze Panes chosen, as I scroll down, I keep my column headers, and as I scroll to the left or right, I keep my columns on the left visible as well. So I have my student information there also. So no matter where I am in the document, I know exactly what I'm looking at. I can tell that this is the 09 tax score, reading tax score for student 27. So I can tell that very easily depending upon where I am in the document. So Freeze Panes makes sure you keep visible exactly that information you want visible. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the top here. So that's one thing to help you as you're going through your data tables, making sure you're seeing exactly what you want. My next thing I want to point out is sometimes you want to get rid of some of the information that's there. Some of it may not be important to you. So we can do things like hiding certain cells and information. So for instance, on my document here, as I'm looking at it, maybe I don't need to know the class that the students enrolled in at this point. For whatever I'm looking at right now, maybe I don't need to know who their teachers were for reading, for the intervention, for math, and for advisory for these particular students. Maybe that's not really important for me at the moment. So columns P through U are currently not important. They might become important again later. Maybe I don't want to delete them because I don't want to lose them. Maybe later on I'm going to need that information. So I don't want to delete them away because that might be a problem later on. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide them so that they're visible later if I need to bring them back. So I'm going to go ahead and hide them. So in order to do that, we highlight them. We right-click. I can choose any of the column headers up here, P through U. I right-click up here above the actual rows, up on the column headers. I right-click and I choose the Hide option. And those disappear. And you'll notice I now jump from O to V. They're not deleted, they're just not visible. So I've gotten rid of information that's currently not important as I'm looking at my document. If it becomes important again, I select the two columns on either side, right-click, and choose the Unhide option. And now my data is back and I have not lost anything. So I have the ability to hide and unhide information to make sure I'm getting just those pieces of information that I want. Likewise, I can hide rows. So if there were rows I didn't need, I could select different rows, right-click on the number area, hide. I now jump from 7 to 11. I can select those two, 7 and 11, right-click, unhide to bring them back. So you can utilize that as a way of getting rid of pieces of information temporarily without losing them. Okay? So my next option I want to share with you is something called filtering. And filtering is really useful because it will let you zero in on pieces of information that you want. And it hides things automatically for you. So it works with that hide option, but it helps you zero in on specific pieces of information. There's lots of ways you can utilize filtering. So on my document, I'm going to look at which columns, which row has all of my column headers for filtering. So when I'm looking here on my document, I look across and I see that rows 4 through 7 all have column heading information, but the one that is most divided up into my column heading information happens to be row 7 itself. So I'm going to select row 7, which has all of my column headers, including these broken down areas here. And then I'm going to go up to the Data tab up here, and I'm going to choose the Filter option. You can also find Filter on the Home tab. Under Sort and Filter, there's the Filter option there as well. But I'm going to go ahead and do it under Data and choose Filter. And when I click Filter, you notice that I get these little drop-down arrows showing up on every single one of those column headers. So on each of these column headers, I now have a little drop-down arrow. With that turned on, I can click on any of these and filter things out. Like for instance here, grade level. I can click on the drop-down arrow and I can choose, right now it's selected all 6th, 7th, and 8th, but maybe I only want 7th graders. So I can choose 7th, hit OK, and now I only have 7th graders visible. You'll notice here for the grade, I now have that little filter icon, the little funnel for filtering, showing there to let me know that this column happens to be filtering information, but now I'm only seeing my 7th grade students. The other students are still there. I haven't lost their information. They're still in the document, but right now it's hidden them away because they're not currently important for this particular purpose. When I want them back, I can click back on that filter. I can choose Select All, hit OK, and now I get all of my students back again. Now, since these are checkboxes, I can actually check more than one. Maybe I want 7th and 8th grade students. I check both, and now I will have both 7th and 8th grade students. So now as I scroll through, on my document, I will have my 7th grade students. And as I scroll further along, we'll end up with my 8th grade students, and there they are. So we can use that as a way of filtering. Also, filtering can be used on things other than just the data that's in the column. So I can look over here at these columns where things are color-coded, and I can look at this and say, okay, under reading, I only want those things that are red. So instead of filtering by any of the actual results that are in the column, I can go up here where it says filter by color, choose red, and now I'm only getting those results in the reading column that have been marked with red. And so as I scroll through, I'm only going to see those that have been marked red. I can unfilter this again by going in here, unchecking the box by filter by color, or choose the clear filter, and that will get rid of the filtering there. So you can filter by color, you can filter by the specific results that are in a particular column. You can also filter by numbers. So for instance, on my tax score, if I want to filter by a range of numbers, I can actually go to my number filters area here. So again, what I did is I clicked on the little drop down, and I go up to number filters. And here I have several different options on how I can choose. I can choose a specific number. I can choose numbers greater than a particular value, less than a particular value, greater than or equal, less than or equal, between specific values. So maybe I want results between 550 and 650. So I'm going to put in between 550 and 650, and I'm going to hit OK. And now I only have results in this column that are between 550 and 650. Anything else is hidden away. So I can utilize this to filter down to exactly those pieces of information that are important to me. And I can combine filters together. So if I'm looking at my tax scores over here between 550 and 650, and over here on grade level I only want my 8th grade students, I'm now looking at just 8th grade students between 550 and 650, and I will not find any students in any other grade levels because I've filtered those out. So that makes it really easy to find exactly those pieces of information you're looking for. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and unfilter all of these and bring them back. I'm going to go ahead and clear my filters here. All right, and so that brings back all of my data. Again, I now have all of my students visible. So there's several different ways of formatting your data for making sure that you get exactly those pieces of information that you're looking for so that you don't lose any of your data there. Okay? Other options that are useful. Filtering, we've already looked at. Sorting is another option. So I can also sort this data. Maybe I want my students sorted in alphabetical order, or maybe I want them sorted by their reading scores. Maybe I want them grouped in certain ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my whole data table here, and I can do that by just dragging my cursor from one end of it to the other. So I'm going to drag and select all of my data table here real quick. Don't just select a single column or a single row because it will only sort that particular column. So you don't want to have the students alphabetized because you selected just the student names, but then all of the data switches which student it belongs to because you didn't have everything selected. So sorting is something you want to be very careful when you're using to make sure you've selected everyone. So I'm going to select everything here, and now that I have everything selected, I'm going to go ahead and choose Sort, and I can say my data has data has headers, so that will give me my column header information here. If I don't have that marked, it just says column A through however many columns, and it will sort the column header information in amongst the students. So if I sorted by student name, my column header will get dropped into whatever field place that belongs as well. So you really generally want to make sure that you have your column headers selected. So my data has headers. Now I can go in here and sort by a particular piece of information. So maybe I want to sort by a particular piece here. Let's look at the tax score for math for '09, and that's in that O column. So I'm going to go ahead and look here, and I'll use that column, and I'm going to go from the highest score, largest to smallest. I can add additional levels. I can then say, after having done that, sort by another piece of information. So I want highest to lowest there, and then within, if everyone is the same, I want student name. So if I have two people that scored the same, we're going to put them alphabetically afterwards. And then I can hit OK, and now it's going to be sorted from highest to lowest. So I have my highest scores, and as I scroll down, it will go lower and lower as I go. So we can utilize that to sort in particular orders. Okay? So sorting is a very useful feature as well. So you can sort, you can filter, you can use your freeze frames to make sure you can see everything you need to see. You can hide data. So you have several different options for manipulating your data to make sure you get exactly that piece of information you want as you're looking at your data table. So I know we get these monster Excel spreadsheets here in the district. These are a few tips on how to make those a little more manageable for you, because you don't always want all of the data all the time. Thank you. This has been Byte Basics. Have a nice day.